It's been years now, this constant, grinding pressure that never really goes away. I don't know if there's a better word for it than trap, but that's exactly how it feels. Like I'm stuck in this system that's designed to keep moving forward, but I'm just treading water, or worse, sinking slowly while everything else floats away. I'm 27, living in a city that never sleeps but always seems too expensive for anyone trying to actually live. The rent alone takes almost half of what I make, and that's before I pay for food, utilities, transport, and the little things that keep life bearable, like coffee or the occasional night out. It's not just the rent rising every year, it's everything. Groceries, gas, insurance, all climbing faster than my paycheck ever has. Sometimes I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up and there's no way to step off without crashing. Every month is a puzzle. I spend the first few days after payday calculating exactly how far the money can stretch. Will I have enough for groceries if I skip lunch out with coworkers? Can I afford to fill the gas tank, or will I have to bike even though it's 10 miles each way? Should I postpone that doctor's appointment because health insurance doesn't cover half the tests? I keep a spreadsheet, and even then, it's just a fragile guess. Something unexpected, a broken phone, a minor car repair, throws everything into chaos. Sometimes I wonder how I got here. I went to college, worked hard, graduated with some hope for a future where money wasn't always tight. But the truth is, that hope was a luxury I couldn't afford for long. The job market is brutal, and even with steady work, wages barely keep pace with inflation. I'm not alone in this, I see it everywhere. Friends delaying weddings, skipping travel plans, living with parents longer than they wanted to. It's like we're all waiting for a break that never comes. The emotional toll is harder to put into words. On some days, I'm overwhelmed with anxiety just thinking about bills. It's a background hum of stress that never really fades, like a constant low-grade headache you can't quite shake. I try to keep it together in public, but at night, when the world quiets down, that fear creeps in. What if I lose this job? What if I can't pay rent next month? What if I get sick or injured and the medical bills crush me? It's exhausting. I've gotten good at coping in small ways. I've learned to celebrate tiny wins, managing to save $20 in a month, or catching a sale on something I actually need. I talk openly with a few close friends about this stuff, even though it feels vulnerable to admit how precarious everything is. Writing here helps too, like breathing out all the tension that builds inside. I try to remind myself that this doesn't define me, even when it feels like it does. But the hardest part is the dreams I've had to set aside. I wanted to travel, to move somewhere new, to go back to school for something I love instead of just what pays the bills. I wanted to buy a car, have a pet, maybe even start saving for a home someday. Now, those things feel like distant mirages, luxuries for a future that's always just out of reach. Sometimes I wonder if that future will ever come at all, or if I'm stuck in this loop indefinitely. There's a bitter irony in wanting more out of life but being chained down by the very cost of living. I know I'm not alone, but knowing that doesn't always make it easier. Some days, the weight feels unbearable, and the only thing I can do is take it one step at a time, one day at a time. Still, I hold on to hope. Maybe things will change. Maybe wages will rise, maybe the system will shift, or maybe I'll find a way to break out of this cycle. I don't know when or how, but I want to believe in that possibility. For now, I keep moving forward, even if it's just inch by inch. Because giving up on that hope, that would be the real defeat. This is my reality, raw and honest. A young adult trying to navigate a world where money is a constant worry, where the future feels uncertain, and where every decision is shaped by the invisible, relentless pressure of an economy that doesn't seem to care. But still, I'm here. Still trying. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd be someone who measures every dollar just to survive, but here I am, caught in this relentless cycle that feels more like sinking than living. Each morning, I wake up with a knot in my stomach, not because of some looming crisis or catastrophe, but because of the constant pressure of making ends meet in a world where expenses seem to balloon overnight, while my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. It's been years since I graduated, full of dreams and hope, thinking the hustle would pay off eventually. But the reality? It's brutal. Rent prices keep climbing in my city, outpacing my modest raises at work. Utilities, groceries, gas, all inching higher, as if they're conspiring against me. I watch friends buy new cars, move into bigger places, travel, start families, all the milestones I imagined for myself. Meanwhile, I'm trying to stretch my last paycheck just to cover the basics. There's this feeling, almost like quicksand, where every choice I make feels trapped. If I spend a little more on groceries, that means skipping the bus fare next week or turning off the heater a little earlier in the winter. Paying off the credit card feels impossible when the minimum payments barely touch the balance, and every late fee just digs the hole deeper. It's exhausting, physically, mentally, emotionally. Some days, I'm proud of the little victories, cooking meals at home instead of grabbing takeout, finding a 50-cent discount on canned goods, or finally paying off a small bill. But these moments feel so small against the weight of everything else. There's no safety net, no room to breathe or make mistakes. The economic system feels rigged, not in some conspiratorial way, but in the quiet, relentless erosion of value in my paycheck against the rising cost of living. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up with every step I take. I remember when I first moved out on my own. I thought independence would be liberating. But freedom came with a price tag I wasn't prepared for: security deposits, furniture, the endless stream of bills. I took a second job for a while, trying to bridge the gap, but burnout hit hard. I had to choose between my health and financial survival, and somehow, the system pushed me into sacrificing both. My emotional well-being has suffered more than I'm willing to admit. There's this underlying anxiety that never quite leaves. Nights spent staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'll handle an unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, anything, and the crushing fear that one mistake could unravel everything. I try to put on a brave face, but inside, I feel worn down, fragile. It's lonely too. People don't always understand that being broke isn't just about money. It's about constant stress, shame, and the isolation that comes from watching life pass by while you hold back. Sometimes, I dream about what I wanted my life to look like: owning a home, traveling, maybe starting a family someday. But those dreams have been pushed to the sidelines, waiting for a day that feels farther and farther away. I've had to let go of so many hopes: a master's degree, taking time off to travel, even small things like joining a gym or going out with friends more than once a month. Those sacrifices sting, but they feel necessary. There's no glamour in making choices between essentials and extras, but it's the reality I live. Yet, I hold on to a flicker of hope. I remind myself that this is a season, not a forever. I try to find strength in small joys: a walk in the park, a call with a friend, a quiet moment to myself. I keep pushing because what else can I do? Somewhere deep inside, I believe that with time, things will change. Maybe a better job, maybe changes in the economy, maybe just a break. Until then, I keep navigating this system, trying not to drown, trying to live with as much dignity and courage as I can muster. This isn't just my story, it's the story of so many young people caught in a world that asks more than it gives. It's a call for understanding, for compassion, and for change. Because living isn't just about survival, it's about hope, possibility, and the chance to build a life that feels like more than just a balancing act between bills and dreams. Some mornings, I wake up with a knot in my stomach that just won't untie. It's the same feeling, day after day, the relentless pressure of money slipping through my fingers faster than it comes in. I'm 27, working 2 jobs, living in a tiny apartment with peeling paint and a heating system that sounds like it's about to collapse. The world around me is moving fast, rents rising, groceries more expensive, gas prices shooting up, but my paycheck barely stretches. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, no matter how hard I push. I used to think that if I worked hard, I'd eventually get ahead. That I'd have enough to save, maybe even invest, and then build a life I could be proud of. But here I am, still juggling bills, counting every penny, and postponing every dream that costs more than a few bucks. The first thing I think about every month is rent. It's a number that's always just a little too high. Last year, my landlord raised it again, saying inflation and maintenance costs had gone up. I didn't argue. What choice do I have? I scrimped on food, cooked the cheapest meals I could, beans, rice, frozen veggies, to make up for it. But even that wasn't enough sometimes. There were nights when I debated whether I could skip a meal, or at least eat less, just to keep the lights on. Utilities are another beast. I'm constantly afraid to use the heater too much because I don't want the bill to double. In the winter, I bundle up in layers inside the apartment, shivering under my blanket while trying to focus on work. It's embarrassing to admit, but sometimes I feel like a failure, like I should be better at managing money or have a better job or just be smarter somehow. But the truth is, no matter what I do, the math doesn't add up. My jobs are both low-wage and unstable. I work at a cafe during the day and deliver groceries in the evening. Some weeks are better than others, but there's never a guarantee. Last month, a car repair took almost everything I had saved, and I'm still paying that off. There's no safety net. If something breaks, I have to find a way to fix it, fast, or everything else falls apart. Social life? That's a luxury I can't afford. My friends want to go out, grab drinks, catch a movie, do something fun. I nod along, smile, but decline. I don't have the money to spend on nights out. Sometimes I feel like I'm shrinking into the background, watching others live while I stay stuck in the grind. It's isolating. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake thinking about the dreams I've had to put on hold. Traveling, going back to school, even something as simple as getting new clothes or upgrading my phone, all things that seem so out of reach. I used to imagine a life where I could save up for a trip abroad or take a class that interested me. Now, just getting through the month feels like the entire battle. There's this exhausting loop of stress and guilt that follows me everywhere. I know I'm not alone, so many people are in the same boat, but it doesn't make it easier. I feel trapped in a system where expenses keep growing faster than income. No matter how hard I work, it feels like the finish line keeps moving further away. To cope, I've started small routines that help keep me grounded. I journal sometimes, writing down everything, my fears, hopes, frustrations. It helps to get it out instead of holding it all inside. I also find brief escapes in music or a book borrowed from the library. Those moments remind me there's a world beyond bills and deadlines. I try to hold on to hope, even when it's hard. I tell myself this isn't forever. Maybe one day, I'll find a better job, or the economy will shift, or I'll finally get a break. I believe in small victories, a month where I manage to save a little, a day without a crisis, a moment when I feel proud of what I've managed despite it all. But the wait is real, and the future feels uncertain. The hardest part is knowing that so many people around me are in the same struggle, trying to stay afloat while the currents keep pulling us down. I hope for a time when I won't have to make impossible choices between essentials, when my dreams won't feel like they're on hold indefinitely. Until then, I keep waking up, keep pushing forward, even if it's one small, exhausting step at a time. It's hard to put into words what living under constant financial pressure feels like, but I'll try. I'm 27 now, and it's like I'm running on a treadmill that just keeps speeding up, no matter how hard I push. Every month I watch my paycheck shrink before it even lands in my account, swallowed by bills and expenses that never seem to stop rising. It's not just the money, though, it's how this constant strain gnaws at you, changes the way you think, act, and even dream. I remember when I first moved out on my own, a couple of years ago. I was hopeful, naive maybe, thinking that steady work and a budget could keep me afloat. I had a job that paid just enough, or so I thought. Rent was manageable, groceries were affordable, and I even squeezed in a bit of fun, movies with friends, a cheap dinner out now and then. But slowly, painfully, everything shifted. The rent crept up, as landlords tend to do, almost like clockwork. Utilities, groceries, transportation, prices rose faster than my income. Each month, the gap between what I earned and what I owed got wider. I cut back where I could, but cutting back can only go so far. You can skip the extra coffee, but you can't skip the electricity bill or the bus fare to work. The harder I tried to save, the more the weight seemed to press down on me. I started feeling trapped, like I was sinking in quicksand. The system feels designed to keep people like me just barely afloat, working, spending, struggling, never quite able to break free. It's like I'm caught in this cycle where expenses grow faster than my income, and the harder I fight, the more exhausted I become. Sometimes I lie awake at night, my mind racing. I think about how I had dreams once, dreams that now feel like distant echoes. I wanted to travel, to move to a new city, to take classes that might help me get a better job. I dreamed of having a stable place to call home, maybe even starting a family one day. But those dreams feel like luxuries now. They're on hold indefinitely because I have to choose between paying rent and saving for those things, and rent always wins. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I wake up with this tight knot in my stomach, an anxious pulse about money even before my day starts. I avoid answering calls sometimes, especially if I suspect it's from a creditor. I hide bills in drawers, hoping ignoring them will make them disappear. But they don't. They pile up, and with them, the guilt and shame. Friends don't really get it, not fully. They talk about vacations and weekends out, and I smile, nod, but inside I'm holding back tears because I know I can't afford to join them. There's a loneliness in that, like being on the outside looking in. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing, not because I'm not working hard, but because the system isn't built for people like me to succeed easily. I cope in small ways. I find solace in quiet moments, walking in the park, reading a book from the library, cooking a simple meal. I cling to those little sparks of normalcy and joy to keep going. I remind myself that this is just a season, that maybe someday things will change. But the truth is, hope feels fragile. It's a delicate flame I have to protect from being snuffed out by every new unexpected expense or late paycheck. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone, there are millions like me, working hard and barely scraping by. That shared struggle helps a little. Still, I wish the world were different. I wish economic stability wasn't a luxury reserved for some and an impossible dream for others. I wish the cost of living didn't rise while wages stay stagnant. I wish the system didn't trap people like me in endless cycles of debt and anxiety. Maybe one day I'll break free. Maybe I'll get that better job, maybe I'll find a way to save enough for those postponed dreams. But until then, I'm here, navigating the invisible chains of financial pressure, trying to stay afloat, and holding on to hope, even when it feels like the current is against me. This is my story, one of quiet struggle, resilience, and the persistent longing for a future where money doesn't dictate every choice or steal every dream. It's hard to put into words what it feels like to be stuck in this constant grind where no matter how hard I work, the numbers never seem to add up. Every month is the same cycle. Paycheck comes in, bills go out, and somehow I'm left wondering if I missed a decimal point or if my brain just forgot how to do basic math. It's exhausting, and honestly, sometimes it feels like I'm drowning in a system designed to keep me barely afloat. I'm 26, living in a small one-bedroom apartment in the city, working a job that I thought would be a stepping stone, something to build on. But the more time passes, the more it feels like I'm running in place. The rent alone takes up nearly half my income. Utilities, groceries, transportation, they pile on relentlessly. Every time I try to save a little, an unexpected expense shows up. A busted phone screen, a car repair, medical bills that weren't in the plan. It's like the universe is constantly testing me to see if I'll break, and honestly, some days I wonder if I already have. I used to dream bigger. I imagined traveling, maybe moving somewhere quieter, starting a small side business or going back to school for something I love. But those dreams feel like luxury now, things only people with extra money can afford. I've had to put off going back to college because the tuition and fees are overwhelming. I thought maybe I could take out loans, but then the weight of debt scares me more than the struggle I'm in now. So, for now, the later keeps stretching further and further away. Every day, I'm forced to make choices that feel like a cruel kind of math problem. Do I eat well or save for a bus pass? Should I pay an old bill now to avoid late fees or put that money toward groceries? It's like my entire life is about balancing these tiny, often impossible, trade-offs. And it's not just the money, it's the stress that comes with it. The constant anxiety about where the next dollar will come from eats at my peace of mind. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, worrying about bills and rent and if I'm ever going to get ahead. There's a loneliness to this, too. People around me talk about investments, vacations, and buying homes. They don't see the months I go without new shoes because the old pair finally wore out, or the dinners I skip so I can pay a late electric bill. I try not to complain, it feels like admitting defeat. But sometimes, I just want someone to acknowledge that this struggle is real and exhausting, that it's okay to be overwhelmed and scared. I've developed little survival habits. I clip coupons religiously, I shop at thrift stores, I meal prep to avoid wasting food, and I take any shift I can get, even if it means less sleep. I try to find joy in the small things, like a free concert in the park, or a phone call with a friend who understands. These small moments remind me that life isn't all about money, but they don't pay the bills either. What keeps me going is hope, stubborn as it is. Hope that one day the numbers will shift, that the economy won't be this relentless monster swallowing my paychecks whole. That maybe someday, I can start saving without feeling guilty, that I can plan a future without the constant fear of being one unexpected expense away from disaster. I still believe that my dreams haven't died, they're just waiting for a better time, a time when I'm not gasping for air in this financial current. Sometimes I think about the system itself, the way wages have stayed stagnant while everything else climbs higher and higher. It feels rigged, like the deck is stacked against people like me, who work hard but never quite get the chance to break free. The frustration sometimes makes me angry, but mostly it just makes me tired. Tired of fighting a battle that seems unwinnable. I don't know what the future holds, and that's scary. But I try to remind myself that I'm more than my paycheck, that my worth isn't tied to a balance sheet. I hold on to the belief that with enough grit and a little luck, maybe someday the pressure will ease, and I can finally breathe deeply, make plans without fear, and live the life I've imagined, not just survive it. Until then, I keep moving forward, one careful step at a time, carrying the weight of these invisible chains and hoping that someday, somehow, the system will change, or I'll find a way to break free. Some days, I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but my legs just can't keep pace. The faster I try to run, the more exhausted I become, and the harder it is to remember why I started running in the first place. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this constant weight on my chest, not quite crushing, but heavy enough to make every breath a little more labored. Growing up, I never really thought about money. It was just there, like air or the sun. My parents worked hard, but I didn't see the stress behind their smiles. When I got my first job after college, I believed that if I just worked hard enough, everything would fall into place. But now, for years in, it feels like the world is moving on without me. The rent keeps rising, groceries get more expensive every month, and even the little things, like my phone bill or a cup of coffee, start to feel like luxuries rather than everyday expenses. It's this strange, persistent feeling of being trapped. I watch my paycheck, which barely budges, try to stretch across a growing list of bills and costs. Utilities, insurance, gas, groceries, and the occasional emergency fund that I try desperately to build, but mostly can't. The gap between what I earn and what I need just keeps widening, like some cruel math problem with no solution. Some days, I wake up with a knot in my stomach before I've even opened my eyes. I lie there, wondering if I'll be able to pay rent this month, or if I'll have to skip a utility bill again. I think about the debt I've accumulated trying to cover emergencies, the car repair that couldn't wait, the medical bill from a sudden illness, the credit card balances I used just to survive. And then I think about the future. The future I imagined for myself. Owning a home. Traveling somewhere far away and feeling free. Building a life where I'm not constantly worried about the next paycheck. But that future feels further away every day. I try to make choices that will keep me afloat, but it's exhausting. I count every penny, literally. I use budgeting apps, cut out streaming services, cook at home instead of eating out, walk instead of taking the bus or rideshare. Sometimes I skip going to the doctor or dentist because I just can't justify the cost. I've stopped buying new clothes. I put off car maintenance until it absolutely can't wait. I refuse to get a second job because the idea of working 2 jobs with no time left to sleep or breathe terrifies me. Still, despite all that, the bills keep coming, and the prices keep climbing. Inflation makes every grocery trip feel like a test of my willpower. The news talks about economic recovery, but I don't feel recovered. I feel like I'm sinking. I've tried talking about it with friends, but there's this awkward silence that falls over the room. They have their own struggles, some worse, some different, but money is one of those topics that people don't like to admit is a source of stress. I don't want to be a downer, so I keep it inside. That makes me feel even more alone. The emotional toll is real. I'm anxious all the time, sometimes to the point where I can't sleep. I feel guilt and shame that I can't make it work like I'm supposed to, guilt that I can't provide more for my family or save for a future that feels increasingly impossible. It's hard to keep your head up when you feel like you're constantly failing at the most basic part of adult life, paying your own way. But I have to keep going. There are moments of small hope, like when I find a discount on groceries or finally pay off a small debt. I try to remind myself that I'm not lazy or careless, just caught in a system that's working against me. It's a system where wages haven't kept up with costs, where rent eats up more than half of what I make, where unexpected expenses send me spiraling. I tell myself these things to fight the despair, to keep from giving up. There are dreams I've had to postpone. I wanted to move out of this tiny apartment, start a career in something I love, maybe even go back to school. I dreamed about traveling, experiencing new cultures, and not worrying about the price tag on every trip. I dreamed about saving enough to buy a home someday, maybe start a family, have some stability. But those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful, shining, but far beyond my reach. I still hold on to those dreams, though. They're like a secret garden inside me, a place I visit when the world feels too heavy. Sometimes, I write in a journal, imagining what life would look like if money wasn't a barrier. Sometimes, I scroll through pictures of places I want to visit, reminding myself there's a world beyond this struggle. I'm learning to cope in small ways, by celebrating tiny victories, by reaching out to a friend now and then, by being kinder to myself when I mess up. I've started meditating, trying to quiet the noise in my head. I remind myself that this pressure isn't my fault, even if it feels like it. And I remind myself that I'm not alone, there are so many others like me, caught in this cycle, trying to make it work. One day, I hope I can look back and see this time not just as a struggle, but as a period that made me stronger. For now, though, I take it one day at a time, hoping that someday, somehow, the treadmill will slow down, or maybe, just maybe, I'll find a way to step off it and walk my own path. Until then, I keep running. I never thought I'd be writing my own story like this, like laying out my life's quiet, heavy burden for someone else to read. But here I am, trying to make sense of a kind of pressure that's always there, even when I'm not thinking about it. It's like a shadow that grows bigger every day, and no matter what I do, it never shrinks. I'm 27, living in a small apartment in the city that's slowly getting smaller in my mind, not because of its size, but because the walls feel tighter with every passing month. The rent goes up again, more than I expected, and my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. I work full-time, putting in hours at a job that's stable enough but far from exciting. I remind myself how lucky I am to have it, but luck only stretches so far when the bills pile up faster than the money coming in. Every morning starts with a kind of mental checklist, almost ritualistic. What can I afford today? Should I skip breakfast or buy the cheaper coffee? Do I have enough left for the bus? The grocery store feels like a minefield. I calculate prices in my head, weighing one item against another, sometimes leaving the store with less than I planned because the total was just too much. It's exhausting, this constant math, this negotiation with myself over every cent. The economic environment feels like an invisible force dragging me under. Inflation is a word I hear everywhere, but it hits home every time I open my wallet or glance at my bank account. Gas prices spike, groceries get more expensive, utilities climb, and suddenly my carefully budgeted life is off balance again. I try to adjust, tighten my belt, but it's a never-ending cycle. No matter what I do, expenses keep rising faster than my income can catch up. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up while I'm stuck in place. There's a quiet desperation in this kind of financial pressure. It's not dramatic or loud, but it's persistent and draining. It creeps into my thoughts, making it hard to sleep sometimes. I wake up with a tight knot in my stomach, worrying about what unexpected cost might come next: a broken appliance, a doctor's visit, a friend's emergency. I'm always on edge, alert for the next hit. Social life has taken a hit too. I've had to say no to invitations, skipping dinners out or trips with friends because the cost is just too high. Watching others live more freely stings in a way I don't always want to admit. I want to be happy for them, but there's a part of me that feels left behind, like I'm stuck on the sidelines. Sometimes I fake a smile and say I'm busy, or make excuses, but really it's just that I can't afford to join in. I miss the spontaneous fun, the carefree moments I used to have when money wasn't always on my mind. The emotional toll is heavy. I sometimes feel ashamed, like I've failed somehow because I can't make it work better. But I know deep down that it's not just me, it's the system. The system that seems designed to keep people like me grinding, scrambling, always just barely staying afloat. I want to believe that if I work hard enough, I'll get ahead, but each paycheck feels like a small drop in a vast ocean of expenses. The gap only grows wider, no matter how hard I swim. To cope, I've developed little routines to keep my head above water. I journal sometimes, just to get the swirling worries out of my mind. I find comfort in small, free things: a walk in the park, listening to music, calling a friend who understands. I try to remind myself of the good moments, even if they're fleeting. Sometimes I take a deep breath and visualize a better future, one where I'm not shackled by bills, where I can save a bit, where I can plan a trip or buy a treat without guilt. But those dreams feel like they belong to someone else's life right now. I postponed plans I used to get excited about: going back to school, traveling, even starting a family someday. Each one feels like a luxury I can't afford yet. It hurts to admit that, but it's honest. I keep telling myself that it's temporary, that things will get better, but the truth is, I don't know when or how. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. Hope that the world will shift, that the economy might stabilize, that my income might catch up, or that I'll find a new path. I remind myself that I'm not alone, that many others are caught in the same cycle. Sharing this story is part of that hope too, a way to connect and say, this is real, and it matters. So here I am, still standing, still trying, still dreaming. Trapped in a system that feels too big to change on my own, but not broken enough to give up on. It's a hard place to be, but I keep moving forward, one small step at a time. I never thought I'd feel this way at 26, constantly scrambling, always a step behind, like I'm running in place while the world speeds ahead. I used to believe that if I worked hard enough, I could carve out a comfortable life, maybe even save a little, travel, maybe buy a home someday. But now? The numbers just don't add up, and the pressure keeps building, squeezing until all I can think about is how to make the next paycheck stretch. It started subtly, almost unnoticeably. Rent creeping up a bit each year, groceries more expensive, gas prices fluctuating wildly. At first, I adjusted easily enough, cut back on nights out, swapped name-brand products for generic ones, and tried to be smarter about where and how I spent money. But over time, those small cuts didn't help anymore. Expenses were rising faster than my salary, and every raise I got felt more like a band-aid on a gaping wound. The economic environment feels like this massive invisible force working against me. I see news stories about inflation, rising interest rates, and corporate profits hitting record highs, but none of that seems to translate into my reality. I'm stuck in this cycle where the cost of living balloons, but my income barely budges. Even the jobs I've applied for that promise better pay are competitive and scarce, leaving me clinging to my current position despite the frustration. Every day feels like a balancing act on a tightrope stretched thinner and thinner. I wake up, and the first thing I think about is money, how much is left in my bank account, which bills are due, whether there's anything urgent I need to pay before my next paycheck. It's exhausting. I used to love mornings, sipping coffee while planning my day or dreaming about the future. Now, mornings start with anxiety. Will the car payment clear? Can I afford to fix the leak in the faucet that's been dripping for weeks? Should I skip lunch today to save money, even though I know it'll just make me tired and less productive? The weight of this financial pressure affects more than just my budget, it affects my emotional well-being. I catch myself feeling guilty over things I shouldn't, like wanting to buy a new jacket for the cold season or going out for a friend's birthday dinner. There's this constant battle between wanting to enjoy life and knowing that every dollar spent is one less dollar toward paying down debt or building a cushion for emergencies. It makes me feel trapped, like I'm living under a cloud of limitations I can't escape. Sometimes, I cry in silence, overwhelmed by how unfair it feels. I look around at people who seem to have it all figured out, their houses, their vacations, their savings, and wonder why I can't get there too. But then I remind myself that social media and casual conversations don't show the full picture. Still, the loneliness of financial struggle is real. I hesitate to talk openly about it because I don't want to seem irresponsible or weak, but keeping it inside only amplifies the pressure. To cope, I've started tracking every single expense obsessively, hoping to find areas where I can cut back even more. I cook at home, limit transportation costs, and avoid unnecessary purchases. I've taken on a side gig, working late nights editing freelance articles just to bring in extra cash. It's tiring, but it's also a small act of control in a world that feels overwhelmingly out of my hands. I've also leaned on a few close friends who understand and offer emotional support without judgment. Despite everything, I still have dreams, though they feel more like distant hopes now. I dream of moving to a place where rent isn't half my paycheck. I dream of taking a vacation to somewhere warm, just to breathe and reset. I dream of finally buying a small car that doesn't need constant repairs. But these dreams have been postponed indefinitely, sometimes pushed so far into the future they almost feel like myths. It's heartbreaking to admit that my ambitions have been downsized by reality. Yet, even in the midst of this struggle, I hold on to a flicker of hope. I tell myself that this isn't permanent, that someday, the economy will shift, or I'll find a better opportunity, or maybe my side gigs will grow into something sustainable. I try to remember that financial hardship doesn't define my worth or my potential. It's a season I'm navigating, not a life sentence. Living with this ongoing financial pressure has taught me resilience and humility. It's taught me to value small victories, paying off a credit card balance, catching a sale, making it through the month without borrowing money. I've learned to be resourceful and patient, even when I feel invisible to the systems that control money and opportunity. And most importantly, I've learned that it's okay to feel vulnerable and ask for help, even when the world tells me I should be strong and self-sufficient. If there's one thing I want to share, it's this: financial struggle is deeply isolating but also incredibly common. Behind every calm, put-together person is a story of sacrifices, stress, and postponed dreams. So if you're feeling this too, know you're not alone. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, to stumble, and to hope for better days. Because even in this tightrope walk, there's always a chance to find balance again, and maybe, just maybe, to start dreaming big once more. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never imagined adulthood would feel like this, like I'm constantly swimming against a current that just keeps getting stronger, no matter how hard I paddle. I'm 26 now, working full-time, trying to make ends meet, but every month feels like I'm trapped in a loop where my expenses creep up faster than my paycheck ever will. It's exhausting, and some days it's hard not to feel crushed under the weight of it all. It started after college. I had dreams, big ones. I thought once I got that degree, everything would fall into place. A stable job, maybe a little apartment of my own, a chance to save up and start building a life. But the reality hit like a brick wall. My first job paid barely enough to cover rent and food, and by the time I'd paid off my student loans, there was barely anything left. The rent wasn't just rent, it was a huge chunk of my income. Utilities, groceries, transportation, everything just stacks up. And each year, my rent goes up, my groceries cost more, gas prices climb, but my salary doesn't budge much. If anything, it feels like the gap is widening. Some mornings, I wake up feeling like I'm already behind before the day even starts. I check my bank account with a sinking feeling, knowing there's not enough there to cover an unexpected expense. A car repair, a doctor's visit, or even something small like a new phone charger feels like a crisis. I'm constantly calculating and recalculating. Can I afford this? Should I skip this? Do I really need that? It's relentless. This pressure wears on you. It eats away at your confidence and makes you second-guess every choice. Social life has become a minefield too. I want to hang out, catch up with friends, but every invitation feels like a test. Dinner out? I can't afford that. Movie night? I need to save. So I say no more than I say yes. It's lonely sometimes, but it feels like a sacrifice I have to make. Even little pleasures, buying a book, grabbing a coffee, or going for a weekend trip, feel out of reach. The budget simply doesn't allow for extras. And it's not just about money, it's about feeling excluded, like life's happening around you while you watch from the sidelines. At work, I try to push through the exhaustion and stress, but it's hard not to feel invisible. I'm stuck in a job that pays the bills but doesn't ignite my passion. I think about switching careers or going back to school for something I really want, but the financial risk terrifies me. How could I afford to quit, even temporarily? Student loans are already a heavy burden. It's like I'm caught in a system where I'm working just to pay for the privilege of working, and any step toward my dreams feels like a luxury I can't afford. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake thinking about the future and it scares me. Will I ever be able to buy a home? Save for a vacation? Start a family without constant anxiety about money? The dreams I once had, traveling, creative projects, even just a stable, peaceful life, feel like distant fantasies. I have postponed so many things because I have to prioritize survival. It's a painful trade-off, security now, or hope for a better life later. Emotionally, this pressure weighs heavily. It's not just the practical side of money, it's the constant stress, the feeling of helplessness, and the creeping shame that comes with being financially stretched thin in a society that measures success by what you own or earn. I try to keep a brave face, but sometimes I feel overwhelmed, like I'm drowning in bills and obligations with no clear way out. Anxiety is a constant companion, and sleep doesn't always come easy. But I cope the best I can. I hold on to small routines, cooking at home instead of eating out, walking or biking to save on gas, and cutting back on unnecessary spending. I've learned to budget meticulously, tracking every dollar, even if it feels like a never-ending balancing act. I find moments of relief in simple things, reading, listening to music, or talking to friends who understand. Sometimes I let myself daydream, even if it's bittersweet, about what life could be if things were different. There are still sparks of hope, even in this tough landscape. I remind myself that I'm not alone. So many others are navigating this same reality. I hold on to the belief that change is possible, even if it's slow. Maybe someday I'll find a better job, maybe I'll get a chance to pursue the things I love, maybe the economy will shift in a way that makes life a little easier. For now, I'm trying to stay grounded, keep my head above water, and find meaning beyond the numbers in my bank account. This story isn't just about money. It's about what money, or the lack of it, does to a person's spirit. It's about the quiet battles that don't make headlines but shape every moment of our lives. I'm learning to be honest about my struggles and vulnerabilities, to accept that it's okay to feel scared and uncertain, and to keep moving forward, even if the steps feel small. I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I'm holding on to the hope that it can be better. That one day, the pressure will ease, and I'll be able to breathe freely, dream freely, and live more fully. Until then, I keep paddling, because giving up isn't an option, even when the current feels overwhelming. I never thought I'd find myself here, caught in this endless loop where every month feels like a battle just to stay afloat. Growing up, I always imagined that by my mid-20s, I'd be carving out a comfortable life for myself, maybe even saving for a little apartment of my own, going out sometimes, or traveling for a weekend getaway. But reality is harsher. Much harsher. And it's crushing, honestly. I work full-time at a retail job, which, in theory, should cover my basic needs. But in practice, it barely stretches far enough. Rent gobbles up more than half my paycheck, and the rest goes to bills, food, and the odd emergency that always seems to pop up. Utilities climb every few months, groceries aren't getting any cheaper, and I swear gas prices are on some cruel endless rise. And yet, my income? It's stuck. No raises, no promotions in sight, just the same hourly wage I started with 2 years ago. Watching my expenses balloon while my pay stays flat is like being trapped in quicksand. No matter how much I struggle, the ground beneath me keeps giving way. The feeling of being trapped is suffocating. I'm constantly anxious, not just about money but about what my life is becoming. Every decision is a calculation. Can I afford to eat out? No. Can I replace that broken phone screen? Not unless I want to eat ramen for a week. Should I call my mom and tell her I can't visit this summer? I hate to, but yes. Those small sacrifices pile up until it feels like I'm living a half-life, never really breathing fully because I'm always holding my breath, waiting for the next bill or unexpected expense to hit. My emotional well-being has taken a real hit. The stress gnaws at me. It's in the middle of the night when I can't sleep because I'm running through my budget over and over, trying to spot any way to save a few dollars. It's in the knot that tightens in my chest when I see friends post pictures of trips, dinners, or new clothes, things I used to imagine having without a second thought. There's this constant, dull ache of shame, like I'm failing somehow, even though I know it's the system that's failing me, not the other way around. I've become really good at coping, though. Necessity is a brutal teacher. I track every cent I spend, sometimes obsessively. I've learned to cook almost everything from scratch because eating out is a luxury I can't afford. I've cut subscriptions, downgraded phone plans, and even started biking to work to save on gas. Social gatherings? I go only if they're free or if I can bring my own snacks. I've turned off the TV and replaced it with free podcasts and library books. These small changes keep me afloat, but they also remind me daily of what I'm missing. More than anything, I've had to postpone dreams. I wanted to go back to school and finish my degree, hoping that a qualification would help me get a better job, something more stable and rewarding. But tuition isn't cheap, and taking out loans feels like digging a deeper hole I might never climb out of. I dreamed of moving to a city with more opportunities, but even a cheap apartment there would be a stretch. The idea of buying a car or saving for a down payment on a house feels so far away that it's almost laughable. I've shelved plans for travel, fancy gadgets, even new clothes. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever have the chance to enjoy life beyond just surviving it. Still, I hold on to hope, even if it feels fragile. I remind myself that this isn't forever. Maybe the economy will shift. Maybe I'll find a better job. Maybe I'll figure out a way to make my dreams happen, even if it takes longer than I wanted. For now, I focus on small victories, paying all my bills on time, having enough food, keeping my little savings account from emptying out completely. These things might seem minor, but right now, they're my anchors. The hardest part is feeling invisible in all this. I don't complain often because I don't want to burden anyone, and because, honestly, so many people are struggling too. But sometimes I wish someone could just look at me and see the weight I carry, the fear of falling behind, the exhaustion of constant worry, the sadness of putting my life on hold. It's not just about money, it's about dignity, about feeling like I deserve more than this grind, more than just scraping by. So here I am, in the thick of it, trying to hold on to hope and keep moving forward, one careful, calculated step at a time. The pressure doesn't ease, but neither does my resolve. I don't have all the answers, and I don't know exactly how I'll get out of this, but I'm still here. Still trying. Still dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. I never thought money would feel like a cage, but here I am, 27 years old, living paycheck to paycheck, wondering if the next bill will push me under. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, not the physical tiredness that comes from hard labor or lack of sleep, but a deep, gnawing fatigue that settles in your chest and won't let go. Every morning, I wake up knowing I have to navigate a system that's stacked against me, where expenses rise relentlessly, but my income feels frozen in time. I work a steady job at a small marketing firm. It's decent work, nothing glamorous, but it pays the rent, just barely. When I graduated college, I had dreams of financial freedom, of building a life where I didn't have to constantly check my bank balance or hesitate before ordering a coffee. But those dreams have been quietly shrinking, squeezed by the harsh reality of rent hikes, utility bills, and the creeping cost of groceries that seem to climb a little more every week. Rent alone consumes nearly half my paycheck. I share a small apartment with a roommate, and even then, the numbers are grim. Every time the landlord announces a rent increase, I feel like I'm inching closer to a cliff's edge. There's no safety net, no family money to fall back on, no expensive cushion to soften the fall. I've tried budgeting, cutting out non-essentials, skipping nights out with friends, but it never feels enough. The bills just keep coming, larger each month, like a tide slowly swallowing what little I have left. Food is another battlefield. I've learned to become a coupon-clipping, sales-watching ninja, planning meals down to the last cent. There was a time when I enjoyed cooking, experimenting with new recipes, but now it's a chore, a necessary task I perform with a kind of robotic precision. Buying fresh produce or organic options feels like a luxury I can't afford anymore. I find myself reaching for the cheapest items on the shelves, even if I don't love them, because it's the only way to stretch my budget. Transportation is a constant stressor too. I don't have a car, and public transit isn't cheap where I live. Sometimes I have to choose between buying a bus pass and paying for groceries. On days when I have a little extra, I'll bike or walk, but the weather and distance don't always cooperate. It's these little decisions, the everyday logistics, that compound into a heavy burden. This pressure isn't just about money, it's about the toll it takes on my mental health. Anxiety has become a constant companion. I lie awake some nights, calculating how much I owe, wondering if I missed a bill, fearing an unexpected expense that could shatter the fragile balance I've maintained. It feels like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm stuck in the same place. Sometimes I envy people who seem carefree about money, who order meals without checking prices or book trips without hesitation. It's not that I don't want those things, I do. More than anything. But there's this voice in my head reminding me of reality, whispering that such freedoms are for others, not for someone like me. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the city limits, to explore cultures and places that inspire me. Instead, my adventures have been local walks in parks or weekend visits to family members. I dream of buying a home one day, but that goal feels so distant it's almost a joke. The down payment alone seems like a mountain I'll never climb. Even relationships feel complicated under this strain. How do you build a life with someone when every decision is influenced by finances? The fear of burdening someone with my financial instability makes me pull back, keep things at arm's length. It's lonely, but it feels safer. I cope the best I can. I've found solace in small things, late-night runs to 24-hour grocery stores when the anxiety is unbearable, music that soothes the restless mind, journaling my frustrations to an invisible listener. I've learned to celebrate tiny victories, making rent on time, skipping a coffee purchase, finding a free event in town. These little wins are lifelines. Despite everything, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this situation isn't permanent. I'm working on building skills, applying for better jobs, even considering further education to improve my prospects. It's slow progress, and sometimes the setbacks feel overwhelming, but I believe in the possibility of change. I want to believe that one day, I won't have to choose between paying the bills and eating well, that I'll wake up without the weight of financial anxiety pressing down on my chest. I wish people understood what it feels like to be trapped in this cycle. It's not laziness or lack of ambition that keeps me here. It's a system where costs rise faster than wages, where the gap between what I earn and what I need widens every day. It's exhausting, frustrating, and isolating. But I'm still here. Still trying. Still dreaming, even if those dreams have become quieter, more cautious. Because deep down, I know that survival is also a form of resilience. And as long as I keep breathing, I'll keep hoping for a better tomorrow. I never imagined that by the time I hit my mid-20s, I'd be living like this, always on edge, scrambling to make the numbers work, feeling like the walls are closing in just a little more every month. It's not some one-time crisis that's got me like this, it's this relentless, grinding pressure that never lets up. The kind of pressure that comes from watching your expenses balloon faster than your paycheck grows, and feeling powerless to stop it. Every morning, I wake up and my mind races through a checklist of bills, rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, phone, insurance, transportation. It's exhausting. I spend more time calculating than actually living. I glance at my bank account and the number is always lower than I want, but never quite low enough to panic immediately. It's this constant tension, never free, never secure. I know people say, just budget better or cut back on this or that, but it's not that simple. My income is modest, and there's barely any wiggle room. Every dollar that comes in has a job to do, and every dollar that goes out feels like a brick added to the pile I'm carrying on my back. I used to have dreams. Big ones. Traveling, going back to school for something I loved, starting a small business, even just saving enough to move somewhere I could feel hopeful again. But now? Those dreams seem distant, like faint stars I can't quite reach. I had to postpone enrolling in graduate school because I can't justify the extra debt, even if it might improve my future earning potential. The thought of adding more loans to what I already owe makes my chest tighten. I've shelved plans to travel, even for short trips, because the money isn't there. When friends talk about weekend getaways or dining out, I smile, but inside I feel like an outsider looking in. The economic environment feels like this invisible force crushing me. Rent keeps going up, sometimes by hundreds of dollars a year, but my paychecks barely move. The cost of groceries spikes, the price of gas seems to tick higher by the week, and medical bills, God, those are a nightmare, keep threatening to derail everything. I watch inflation reports on the news, and it's like hearing the script of my own struggle being read aloud, but with no solution in sight. It's discouraging. It's infuriating. And honestly, sometimes it's heartbreaking. There are days when I feel completely trapped. Like I'm stuck on a treadmill that speeds up every time I think I'm catching up. I've tried side gigs, but they take time and energy I don't have, and they often don't pay enough to make a real difference after taxes and expenses. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just not working hard enough or if I've made bad choices. But then I remind myself it's bigger than me, this isn't a personal failing. It's a system that seems designed to keep people like me spinning in place. The emotional toll is heavy. I lie awake at night, my mind refusing to shut off, worrying about the unexpected, the car breaking down, an emergency dental bill, or just running out of money before the next paycheck. That anxiety can be paralyzing. It seeps into my self-worth, makes me feel small and invisible, like I'm not enough. Sometimes, I get angry, at the world, at the system, at myself. But more often, I just feel exhausted. Tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. To cope, I try to hold on to small moments of joy. Cooking meals at home instead of eating out, even if it means eating the same thing a few times a week. Walking instead of taking the bus when I can. Trying to find free or low-cost entertainment, like library events, streaming shows, or just sitting in a park when the weather is nice. I talk to close friends who understand and don't judge me for declining invitations or for the stress I carry. I journal sometimes, writing down what I'm feeling so I don't bottle it all up. And I remind myself daily that this is a phase, even if it's a long and painful one. I want to believe there's a way out, even if I don't know what it looks like yet. I hope for better policies that address income inequality, affordable housing, and healthcare access, things that feel so out of reach but so crucial. On a personal level, I hold on to the hope that someday I'll find a job that pays more, that I'll be able to save, that I'll break this cycle. It's what keeps me moving forward when the weight feels unbearable. This is my reality, not a dramatic story of sudden loss, but a slow, grinding battle against a system that never stops shifting the goalposts. I share this because maybe someone else feels the same way and needs to know they're not alone. Because behind the smiles and casual conversations, many of us are quietly struggling, trying to hold it together while the cost of living keeps climbing and the promise of financial freedom feels more like a distant dream. If anything, I hope this story reminds us all how deeply economic pressure affects the human spirit, and how much we need empathy and real change, not just for myself, but for everyone trying to make it through each day. I'm still here, still fighting. Even when it's hard to see the way forward, I'm trying to believe better days are possible. Every morning feels like waking up inside a loop I can't break free from. The alarm goes off, and instead of feeling ready to take on the day, I'm already weighed down by a quiet panic. Bills, rent, groceries, the car, expenses that keep climbing faster than any paycheck I manage to earn. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I move, I'm stuck in the same place, watching the distance I want to reach slip further away. I'm 27 now. When I was a kid, I imagined my 20s would be about exploring, building a life, maybe even traveling the world or at least moving into a place that felt like mine. I thought I'd have the freedom to say yes to new opportunities, to treat myself once in a while, or to save something for the future without it feeling like a luxury. But the truth is, every dollar I make feels like it's already spoken for before I even get it. The economic environment around me, it's harsh and unforgiving. Rent prices are insane. The neighborhood I live in used to be affordable, now it's skyrocketed. The grocery store shelves don't stretch as far as they used to when it comes to budget options, and gas prices fluctuate so wildly that I find myself debating whether I can afford to visit my family even though I miss them terribly. I constantly remind myself that I'm not alone in this, but it doesn't ease the sting. It's isolating to feel trapped in a system that seems designed to squeeze you dry, like you're just a cog in a machine that doesn't care about your dreams or your exhaustion. Work is no refuge either. I have a decent job, steady enough, but raises barely keep pace with inflation, and promotions are a rare prize. Most of my colleagues are in the same boat, grinding away, hoping something better will come along. Some days I fantasize about just quitting, about walking away from the constant pressure, but then the reality hits. Without this job, I'd be sinking even faster. So, I stay, biting my lip and clocking in, while my mind drifts to all the things I'm putting on hold. There are dreams I've shelved because they don't feel practical right now. Going back to school for something I'm passionate about, that's a fantasy. Starting a side business or even just taking a class for fun feels impossible when every spare cent is earmarked for essentials. I postpone thinking about saving for retirement because it seems so far away and so unreachable that it's almost depressing. I want to believe I'll have a life where I don't have to check my bank app obsessively, where I can afford to eat out with friends without counting the cost or buy a gift for someone just because I want to, not because it fits the budget. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a low hum of anxiety that never quite goes away. Sometimes, when I'm alone, it bubbles up into tears, frustration at the system, sadness for the life I hoped I'd have, and fear for what the future holds. It's a feeling of invisibility, too, like my struggles are minimized because everyone's struggling. But the truth is, when you're caught in this cycle, it's hard to reach out, hard to explain the weight of it all to someone who might not see it from your side. I've found ways to cope, though, even if they're small. Budgeting apps have become my lifeline, forcing me to confront reality every week. I've started cooking more at home, learning to stretch ingredients in ways that surprise me. And I've gotten better at saying no to social invitations, not because I don't want to spend time with people, but because I have to prioritize my mental health and financial stability. Sometimes, I treat myself with tiny rewards, a cup of coffee from my favorite spot, a used book from the thrift store, that remind me there's still joy to be found in the little things. I try to hold on to hope by imagining what a breakthrough might look like. Maybe it's getting a promotion, finding a better paying job, or finally saving enough for a modest vacation. Maybe it's breaking free enough to start pursuing those shelved dreams bit by bit, without the fear of sinking deeper into debt. I tell myself that this phase, as hard as it is, won't define my whole life. But some days, that hope feels fragile, almost like a whisper in a storm. At the end of the day, the weight of the ongoing financial pressure is more than just numbers in a bank account. It's a daily test of resilience, a quiet battle fought in the spaces between routine and rest. It shapes how I see myself and the world, how I plan, or don't plan, for the future, and how I hold on to the belief that someday, maybe, the treadmill will slow down enough for me to step off and breathe. I wake up every morning to the same dull ache in my chest, a mix of exhaustion and a creeping anxiety that settles in before I even open my eyes. It's the weight of knowing that no matter how hard I try, the world around me is moving faster than I can keep up. Bills, rent, groceries, they're all climbing relentlessly, while my paycheck barely budges. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up every day, and I'm stuck trying not to fall off. I'm 26, living in a small one-bedroom apartment that feels more like a cage than a home. The rent here is a constant reminder of how little space there really is for me to breathe, let alone save. I used to dream about moving out of the city, buying a car, maybe even taking a trip somewhere, anywhere, just to break the cycle. But those dreams feel like luxuries now, the kind only other people seem to afford. Everyday decisions have become a balancing act of sacrifice and survival. Should I splurge on a coffee today or save that $3 for the gas I'll need tomorrow? Can I afford to replace my phone charger when the one I have is fraying, or is that a wait until it dies completely situation? Eating out? Forget it. My meals are a steady rotation of pasta, rice, and whatever's on sale at the grocery store. I sometimes catch myself daydreaming about a juicy burger or a slice of pizza, but then the guilt kicks in because it's an unnecessary expense. I know it's small, but those little treats remind me of a life that feels just out of reach. The hardest part is feeling trapped. Like no matter what I do, I'm stuck in a system designed to keep me barely afloat. My job pays just enough to cover essentials, but there's never anything left over. I'm constantly choosing between essentials, medication or groceries, phone bill or internet. Sometimes I lie awake at night, running the numbers in my head, trying to find a way to make things work. There's never a good answer. Social life has taken a huge hit too. I avoid hanging out with friends because everything seems so expensive. Bars, movies, even just grabbing a drink, it all adds up and reminds me of how limited I am. I want to be there for my friends, to celebrate milestones and just have fun, but I feel guilty every time I say no. There's this lonely feeling that creeps in, like I'm watching life happen around me while I'm stuck in a waiting room. I cope the best I can. I've learned to find small pockets of joy in everyday things, listening to music, walking in the park, journaling. I'm trying to remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance, even though it often feels that way. But the stress is real and heavy. Sometimes, I break down and cry in the privacy of my room because it all feels so overwhelming. I'm tired of feeling like I'm failing to make more money, failing to save, failing to live the life I want. I've had to postpone dreams I once held close. Going back to school for that degree that might open doors. Saving for a trip to visit family overseas. Buying a car so I can have a little freedom and not rely on unreliable public transport. Even small things, like redecorating my space or investing in a hobby, have been shelved indefinitely. It's like my future is on hold, paused by a constant undercurrent of financial pressure. But despite all this, I haven't given up hope. I remind myself every day that this is a season, not a sentence. I'm trying to learn new skills, applying to better paying jobs, and dreaming quietly about a time when I can breathe easier. I know it won't be easy, and maybe it won't be soon, but I'm holding on to the idea that things can change. I'm more than my paycheck, more than my debts, and one day, I want to prove that to myself. Until then, I keep going, juggling, sacrificing, dreaming, trying to find light in the cracks of a system that often feels designed to keep me down. It's not just about money, it's about reclaiming my sense of possibility in a world that seems determined to shrink it. I'm here. I'm trying. And someday, I hope to tell a different story. I never imagined I'd feel this way at 26, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking deeper the more I try to pull myself up. Every day is a balancing act, a tightrope walk between what I earn and what I owe. And no matter how carefully I budget or how much I cut back, the numbers never add up the way I hope they will. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while the finish line keeps moving further away. I grew up with a decent middle-class life, nothing extravagant, but stable. My parents worked hard, always making sure there was food on the table and a roof over our heads. I thought that if I worked hard enough and stayed out of trouble, I could build something similar for myself. But now, standing on my own 2 feet, it feels like the world around me has shifted beneath me. Rent in my city is insane. The tiny studio I call home costs nearly half my paycheck each month. I can't afford to live anywhere nicer or even to move somewhere cheaper without taking on a longer, more exhausting commute. Utilities and groceries, things that used to feel manageable, have become sources of stress. Every trip to the store feels like a negotiation, a forced calculation of what can be sacrificed. I look at the price tags and silently tally, if I buy this, then I can't buy that. If I eat out even once this week, it means skipping something else essential. And then there's the creeping mountain of other expenses. Student loan payments that never seem to shrink. Car insurance that somehow went up again. Medical bills from a minor injury that I didn't have the money to fix right away. All these little things pile up, and the pile keeps growing. The worst part is that my income barely budges. I work full-time in an entry-level job that pays just enough to cover basics but not enough to save or breathe easy. Every year, there's talk about inflation and how prices are rising, but my salary feels frozen in place. The gap between my pay and my needs grows wider, and that gap feels like a chasm I'm never going to cross. Some days, I wake up feeling defeated before I even get out of bed. It's exhausting to live with this constant pressure, to always be counting pennies and making sacrifices. The weight of it presses down on my chest, and I feel small and invisible in a system designed to keep people like me struggling. It's like the rules of the game are rigged. I can work hard, be responsible, but the deck is stacked against me. I've had to put so many dreams on hold. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city. I imagined having a cozy apartment filled with plants and books, a place that felt like my sanctuary. I dreamed about going back to school for something I'm passionate about, maybe starting a small side business. But every time I think about these things, the reality of my bank account pulls me back. I cope in small ways, a coffee with a friend, a walk in the park, a favorite song that reminds me I'm not alone. Sometimes, I let myself cry, let the frustration spill out. It helps, momentarily. But then I have to get back to the grind. Because if I don't, the bills will keep coming, the rent will be due, and I'll be one step closer to falling behind. Still, somewhere deep down, I cling to hope. Hope that the economy will stabilize, that wages will catch up, that one day I won't have to live paycheck to paycheck. Hope that I'll find a way to break free of this cycle, even if it means starting from scratch. I remind myself that I'm not defined by my financial struggles, even though they consume so much of my time and energy. There's a part of me that believes better days are possible, even if they feel distant right now. Living under this constant pressure changes how I see the world, and myself. It's humbling, isolating, and sometimes terrifying. But it also teaches resilience and forces me to be creative and resourceful. I'm learning that survival is a skill, and every day I survive is a small victory. The system might want to keep me down, but I'm still here, still fighting. Maybe one day, I'll look back on this time and see it as the moment I found my strength. But for now, I'm just trying to take it one day at a time, holding on to the hope that someday soon, I'll catch my breath. I never thought I'd find myself here, caught in this relentless cycle where every day feels like a balancing act on a tightrope that's fraying faster than I can steady myself. It's a kind of exhaustion that's not just physical, but so deeply emotional. It's like a weight pressing on my chest, making even the smallest decisions feel monumental. I'm in my mid-20s, trying to carve out a life, but the harder I try, the more the system seems designed to keep me just barely afloat, never quite able to leap forward. It's hard to put into words what it's like living with ongoing financial pressure that never seems to loosen its grip. On the surface, it looks like I'm managing, paying rent, covering bills, grabbing a coffee with friends now and then, but beneath that thin veneer, it's constant stress, a gnawing anxiety that lingers in the background. My income feels like a trickle, while expenses keep rising like an unstoppable tide. The cost of rent has ballooned in the last few years. I moved to a small apartment a few blocks from my job, thinking it would be manageable. But every month, a huge chunk of my paycheck disappears into rent alone. Utilities, groceries, transportation, they pile up relentlessly. I've had to cut back on everything that isn't absolutely necessary. No more spontaneous dinners out, no new clothes unless it's an emergency, no vacations or even weekend getaways. Even hobbies feel like luxuries I can't afford. Sometimes I catch myself holding my breath while opening the mail, bracing for another bill or an unexpected expense. The last time my car broke down, I didn't have the savings to fix it right away, so I had to borrow money from a friend, which felt humiliating. That loan feels like a chain around my ankle, reminding me daily that I'm one small crisis away from spiraling. What hurts most is how this constant financial stress affects my mental health. I lie awake some nights, heart racing, mind running through every scenario where something goes wrong. I try to plan, but it feels like planning is a cruel joke. The numbers never add up the way I want them to. I want to believe that if I work harder or budget better, I'll get ahead, but the truth is, I'm barely keeping pace with a world that's speeding up around me. I've learned to cope in small ways. I started journaling to get my thoughts out of my head, even if it's just to remind myself that I'm not alone in this. I lean on a few close friends who understand that when I say I can't go out or need to skip events, it's not because I don't want to be there, it's because I can't stretch my money any thinner. Sometimes I give myself permission to feel frustrated and overwhelmed instead of bottling it up, though that's easier said than done. But more than the day-to-day struggles, what really stings is the dreams I've had to put on hold. When I was younger, I imagined moving to a new city, traveling, maybe even going back to school to study something I'm passionate about. I thought by now I'd be building toward owning a home, saving for the future, maybe even starting a family. Instead, I'm stuck here, pushing the dreams further down the road, telling myself later so many times it feels like that word is losing its meaning. There's a profound loneliness in this, too. It's hard to explain to people who haven't felt this pressure what it's like to be trapped in a system that seems rigged against you. Sometimes, I feel invisible, like my struggles aren't valid because I'm young or just starting out. But this is real, and it's wearing me down. Still, I hold on to hope. Maybe someday the economy will shift, or I'll find a new opportunity that pays better or has benefits that help me breathe easier. Maybe I'll find a way to break free from this cycle. For now, I try to celebrate the small victories, the weeks when I manage to save a bit, the moments of genuine laughter with friends, the times I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can under incredibly tough circumstances. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes, I don't even know if there's a clear path forward. But I'm here, still fighting, still hoping, even when the system feels like it's pushing me down. Maybe that's enough for now. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.